if you're the Cowboys, especially with now the Dak Prescott injury, like you really got to question everything going on, right? You got to question everything that's going to happen moving forward on the season. Is Cooper Rush going to be able to come in and salvage some games while Dak Prescott is out? Colin, you're already 3-5. I don't want to say there's not a lot of margin for error. There really isn't.
And you got Eagles, Texans, Commanders coming up.
Right. So brutal schedule coming up. Cowboys sitting at 3-5, Colin. And it's funny because I'm the one who told you there is always Super Bowl aspirations with that roster. Well, why with that roster are they 3-5 at this point on the year? Is it Mike McCarthy? Colin, you saw him slam the tablet. You saw him slam the tablet after Darnell Mooney is wide open. It seems like that honeymoon, if you could even call that, between him and Jerry Jones might be coming to an end. But the Cowboys are probably number one because they're the Cowboys, and that's the expectation. But I want to focus on the New Orleans Saints a little bit. Colin, it's hard to lose 7 games in a row. It really is. It's hard to lose 7 games in a row when you have professionals on your football team. I mean, Alvin Kamara, a solid player. I thought the Saints defense was good enough to maybe inch out a couple of these games, but you can't lose to Carolina. And now the talks of Carolina are, Bryce Young's starting to turn it around. And this, I just think the Saints are such a mess that it's making that whole conversation come alive. I don't know how much we could look into Bryce Young having success. I just think it's the Saints being the dumpster fire that they are. And I kind of felt bad, even with Carr coming back, that things didn't really work out for them, right?
They got so much bad publicity, especially with Mike Thomas going media, going after Carr. Now you get the coach out. Derek Carr is trying to field the media questions in regard to Mike Thomas and where the direction of the team's going to be. New Orleans is firmly in place of getting a top 5 draft pick. Yeah. They're in cap hell at the moment in terms of guaranteed money. In talks to sellers, I don't think there's going to be 2 teams that are more sellers based on what we're seeing in terms of a fire sale than the Saints and the Cowboys. Those are your 2 teams that I think at this point are going to ship out what they possibly can.
Who do you get rid of if you're on the Cowboys?
I would field calls for Lawrence, DeMarcus Lawrence, that is. I would field calls, a couple of those defensive players. I would get Diggs
Bland,
he's hurt. I would get Diggs out of there. Parsons at this point? Do you ship out Parsons and get 2 firsts?
He's owed a contract, too.
Yeah.
You already paid Dak Prescott.
The person who's going to get him is going to have rights to extend him. Mm-hmm. So do you do that? What good does he do by keeping him around?
Knowing Jerry Jones, they're going to try to win every game with Cooper.
And, it's the elephant in the room with how Jerry Jones, we talked about it a bit yesterday on Sunday Huddle, but Jerry Jones is an 82-year-old general manager. Without saying it, how much is he really looking towards the future?
Right.
82 years old, you're the owner of the team, you've owned the team for 40 years. You want to win now. I understand that for obvious reasons. But the fact that you're also the general manager, it hinders your ability to operate in the future. It hinders your ability to utilize both what's working now and what could work in the future because in a lot of ways, Jerry Jones is a little nearsighted. He's not thinking about what 3 years is going to look like because where's Jerry going to be in 3 years? I mean, it's a little morbid. But he's old.
And my question to you is, who takes that operation over? The son?
I don't know.
The son?
Yeah, it's not like he's not going anywhere anytime soon. But the fact is, he's an 82-year-old general manager. Is entirely too old to be a general manager. You're entirely too old. If you want to see some winning, let somebody, an up-and-comer, take the reins, and you just be an owner. You run the business. You're the CEO of the business. Do what you got to do. Hell, have a operations role if you want. And let somebody else who is going to be more nearsighted take the reins. But now they should fire sale, but I don't know if that is really what Jones wants to do.
And offensively, outside of CeeDee Lamb, who are you going to sell there? I don't want to say no one wants Dak Prescott. I'm sure they'd be able to.
I think CeeDee and Prescott are probably the planted figures.
That's what I mean. You get what I'm saying here. You're not trading Prescott. You're not trading Lamb. All right, then tell me who the hell you're trading on the offensive end.
Yeah.
So that's why I think they're just going to stick with what they got and try to win as many games as possible. And the track record of Jerry Jones is win now. And the defense has been an absolute nightmare this year.
But they have
There's
talent,
no arguing
which
that.
is why you can ship him.
They do. And the question I want to ask you, too, we're kind of harping on Jerry here. How much of the blame is on the coaching staff? There's got to be. We got to divvy some blame on Mike McCarthy.
Absolutely.
There's got to be blame on McCarthy and accountability from there because this was a defense that was good enough last year. I mean, they were rushing the quarterback at an incredible rate.
Yeah, they were a great defense last year, turning the ball over a lot, and then Dan Quinn gets shipped out, takes the head coaching job at the Commanders, and then all of a sudden they fall off a cliff. Yeah. I understand that injuries have a lot to do with that, with Bland not being available and Parsons not being available and Lawrence not being available.
But it makes you wonder if Bland might – I know he's injured, but it makes you wonder if Bland might be traded. It makes you wonder if some of these other guys might be on –
Go stockpile. Do it.
What would this – so second round pick?
I can't –
That's what I mean.
For
I don't
somebody
want
like Bland – For Parsons, you'd get 2 or 3 first rounders.
Well, yeah, he's that premium edge rushing position.
Diggs, you'd get a second rounder, a third rounder, probably a third.
You got to realize, dude, Diggs is a ball hawk. He's not gonna, he's gonna take a chance and try to get an interception rather than stick on a guy like glue. So, is the team going to be willing to go for a corner like that at this point of the year when it's sweaty palm times? But it fascinates me, the conversation, because a team we haven't brought up either are the Jets. The Jets, I know they won the Super Bowl, according to some people, last Thursday, winning that game on Thursday Night Football. But they're an awful football team as well right now.
Yeah, terrible. And but they're not going to sell because they've already bought. Yeah, so they've established themselves as buyers.
But I think the Cowboys are more of the same realm. I know they didn't necessarily buy. They bought from within with CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott.
And then 8 games in, now it's a disaster. But all of a sudden, do you want to die on that horse? That's the Cowboy way.
It is.
But to that point, you have an opportunity here where you have talent. Your team is not going anywhere. You're not winning. You're not going to touch the playoffs. And does Jerry, can he look farsighted 2-3 years into the future and get a grasp at, all right, well, we're not going to accomplish anything this year, but what about 2 years from now? Still going to have the quarterback under contract, still going to have the receiver under contract. Let's try to stockpile and get some talent. If he could think like that, then that would be to the benefit of the Cowboys organization. But there's also some people that say until Jerry moves out of his position as general manager, and whenever he'll do that, Lord knows when he'll ship out as the general manager. And whether he stays as the owner is another thing. But when he gets out of that role, the Cowboys might not win anything. So I think that might be the conclusion I'm coming to.
So you're saying stockpile, getting rid of Parsons and some of the DBs.
Not saying you need to get rid of Parsons, but he's an asset. He's not doing you any good right now, and he's going to do a whole other teams a whole lot of good, and you're going to be able to, instead of paying him a plethora of money and not doing anything with it, you could actually get something and make use of it.
Would teams give up where I'm coming from here too, I hate when my team trades first-round picks. Drives me crazy. Someone going to give up 2 first-rounders for Micah Parsons?
Yeah.
I call it a rental, too. Would you as well?
Well, if they extend him immediately, that's another problem. But yeah, any contender, if he's healthy, any contender would take him in a second.
To your point, I know this is kind of a bad example because the Bears were kind of awful when they made the trade last year. But you saw Montez Sweat last year.
Hey, what was he, a second-round pick?
Yeah, first-round pick.
That was a first-round pick they gave up for him?
Sorry, I thought you meant him himself. It was a second rounder.
Yes,
it was a second
rounder they gave up.
I thought you meant Sweat himself, but they did extend him. The point I was trying to get to, the Bears got him and then they extended him.
Well, how they would handle he wouldn't be a rental because how they'd handle the Parsons trade is, number one, they would make sure that Parsons' agent would agree to a contract extension before that trade went through. That's just how that would go. That's how the Cowboys get the most out of it. That's how the other team gets the most out of it.
I guess
that's how Parsons gets the most out of it.
Call for what it is. I don't see teams wanting to give up 2 first-rounders. It's a tough business, Colin.
I mean, tough business when they're going to be the 28th overall pick. It's not as important as the 3rd overall pick. I think that's my perspective on it. If it's a contender that's going to have a late 20s pick, this is worth it. If you're in a Super Bowl window.
Let me throw a team out there then. Like, obviously, you're not going to trade intra-division. There's a big stink about the Lions. Let me ask you this. Did it look like the Lions needed a pass rusher against the Packers this past weekend?
Everybody says they're going to get Zadarius Smith either today or tomorrow. So that's another problem.
Yeah, from the Browns.
But so I don't know if they'll need him. And I don't know who will go get Parsons. It's maybe somebody who's entering a Super Bowl window who has the money to spend on a pass rusher. That might be part of the reason why they would do something like that. And who that is, I don't necessarily have an answer for,